Is Ohio State's recruiting class underrated? I tend to think that it is, and I'm going to tell you why.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, I am going to be breaking down the Ohio State Buckeyes 2026 recruiting class, and it's underrated. If you take nothing else from this podcast, note that Ohio State, despite having a top 10 class and even some of their fans, surprisingly, being disappointed in the class so far, I don't get that. This is an underrated class. It has top-end players. It's got underrated players. It's balanced. There's really not much to like about it, and they still have room to grow. So Ryan Day and his staff have done a very good job, and I'm going to break that down. Here's the real point here, though. There's nobody that I went through, watched film, that I've learned about, that I go, this guy just cannot play in any way, shape, or form for the Buckeyes. Balance, to me, is their number one factor. Can they add a few more high-end players? Sure. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes. But again, this is a very balanced class, and it's the number one reason that I believe that it's underrated overall. But with that being stated, who are the playmakers, and why should Ohio State fans be happy, as well as fans that, quite frankly, don't like Ohio State be like, here we go again. It starts with the wide receiver position. Chris Henry Jr., it's a kid that I've seen play multiple times. He's at least 6'5". He's just over 200 pounds. Very measured young man. Obviously, Chris Henry Jr. is, his dad played in the NFL. He's been around it forever. He was originally in Cincinnati, but now he's at Mater Dei. That is the kind of frame that we just don't see very often. He can't possibly be built really any better for wide receiver. And surprisingly, Henry Jr. is a young man that has acceleration that's abnormal for somebody his length. Usually shorter guys can really accelerate fast and be explosive. Henry can do that at 6'5 plus. And he's a 50-50 ball guy, as you would expect. Not one or the other, both. When you combine those traits in the overall, I don't want to say machine, but it sure seems that way for Ohio State producing quality wide receivers, not just the Jeremiah Smiths of the world, but they take three-star guys and end up having them do really well too. There have been a few of those. If you look at that overall, it's kind of hard to imagine Chris Henry Jr. not ending up being not just a good football player for the Buckeyes, but being one that can compete for Big Ten and possibly All-American honors. And here's the funny part. When you look at Ohio State's class, and you can break it down any way you want, there's not any spot that I'm like, it's all balanced. But even the receiver group, they've got 5 receivers committed. And even though I just completely think that Chris Henry Jr. is going to be really, really good, Kayden Dixon-Wyatt, also at Mater Dei, ironically, out in the greater LA area, might be better. You could at least argue it. He's more of a quote-unquote traditional receiver, normal size, 180, 190 pounds. Kayden Dixon-Wyatt, though, is maybe my favorite route runner in this class. We'll talk about some different things with the recruits around the country, and this might be the one that I've seen live that I just think knows how to operate in very tight space, bracket coverage, man coverage, natural zone, whatever, and do well. Kayden Dixon-Wyatt has been trained to get open in ways that most upperclassmen in college would respect. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect. Again, still at a high school level, but Kayden Dixon-Wyatt is an elite athlete that has the ability to get open. You put him and Chris Henry Jr. on opposite sides, or maybe you put Chris in the power slot position or whatever, it's hard not to like it. So while Ohio State could add maybe a couple more guys to their recruiting class, add more top-end players at wide receiver, it really doesn't get much better than what Ohio State has, and that's what we expect out of the Buckeyes in general. So balance is there. They've got some high-end receivers that they constantly churn out anyway. Those two reasons are very good for Ohio State to be ranked where they are in terms of the top 10, but I still think a little bit higher would be probably more realistic because they maximize their talent. I think coaching should be put into the recruiting rankings. And I get it. Recruiting services, stay away from that because they don't want to make coaches mad. That's real talk. But at the same time, I trust Ohio State staff to maximize some of these young men. But there's also the other side of this, and that's the ability to get after the quarterback. That's the ability to recruit defensive players and having balanced class. I want to talk a little bit about that now. Khary Wilder is a guy that's another LA player, ironically, from Junipero Serra. I think I'm pronouncing that properly. Another Trinity League player. That's arguably the best league in the country. St. John Bosco, Mater Dei, Serra, etc. They've got all kinds. Santa Margarita Catholic. They're all very good. He came to Rivals 5-star, and I had the opportunity to go. They had it at the Colts facility. We had all these pass rush drills. I'd heard about him. I'd seen his film. But when I watched Wilder, I'm like, holy cow, this might be the best pure interior pass rusher in the country, which is arguably the rarest skill on a football field. Quarterback is one thing, but there are at least a lot of guys that can spin it. Whether or not they can read coverage is another. First step, get off, length, really nice combination of moves, and just effort. He's certainly in the conversation for that. I don't think he's the best all-around defensive tackle. There are other guys that I would take above him at this point, but his upside might be the highest. Deuce Gerald's and some other guys. Richard Anderson, that LSU class, by the way. You could argue they have the top 3 defensive tackles in the country committed. But this is one of those guys that once he fills out, Wilder could be the best of the bunch. It's possible. Adding him to an already advantageous defensive tackle room, and again, I trust, they got Larry Johnson. I trust Ohio State's coaching staff to figure it out. I think this is a guy that will play no later than his sophomore year. At most schools, he would play very, very early. He would probably have a chance to start at least a third of the schools at the FBS level before the end of his freshman year, which is probably not good, but his ability to get after the quarterback is just such a big-time plus for your defense. He would be a guy look this is a guy you can build your defense around. Teams have to scheme against. Again, he's 260, 270 right now, but he'll come in at 280, maybe a little above that. He could take on a lot of guards and stuff because if they get out over their toes or too aggressive, he's in the backfield. And he's got a bevy of moves too, whether it's two-hand swipe, whether it's rip, whether it's slap, whether it's some other combination, push-pull. He's a really savvy pass rusher. Those guys are rare. And I also want to talk about somebody else. Not enough people know about Wilder because that's a very private event at Rivals 5-star that he was dominant and he won MVP. Jordan Thomas, it's a kid out of Bergen Catholic that I've seen multiple times. I would take him at any school in the country. Any school in the country. Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, every school you think of in the Midwest that's dominant really wanted him. And several programs down south. Auburn really wanted him, just among others. I saw him on Auburn's campus on a visit. He's a young man that I think will continue the tradition for Ohio State at cornerback. Long, athletic, and he's very physical. He could be a very good zone defender. In cover 2, I think he's perfect because he's not afraid to hit. And he can run with guys if you want to play cover 1 or some kind of match defense, etc. He would be fine in that as well. With Matt Patricia running such a varied scheme with a lot of sim pressures and doing different things. By the way, go check out Jerry DiNardo hanging out with Urban Meyer. They did a simulation on the Texas game. A great video. It's about 5-6 minutes on how they did things. Jordan is going to fit right in with Ohio State, running a lot of different things. He has NFL aspirations, and he's just the kind of guy you want to be around. I think he'll fit in well with the culture that Ryan Day and his staff have accumulated. So those are just some of the beginning building blocks here. I have a few others that I want to discuss as well. We're going to talk about them next here on the Portal Podcast. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. Tailgates, rivalries, big games, all the touchdowns. There's nothing quite like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets sometimes can feel like it's more than a battle than the game itself. Endless fees, being shocked at the checkout. It's not a good time. That's why I use Game Time, and I was actually just on the Game Time app checking some of this out. The app gives you the advantage, and the fans deserve that advantage because they want to support their team. You don't deserve to get a raw deal at the end, and you also deserve to know where your seat's at, what it looks like with the seat view on your phone or your tablet. Game Time can allow you to do that. I was just on the app a few minutes ago. Ohio State against Grambling State, they've got tickets for under $50. You want to get a little bit better, you can get in the shoe for under $100. And again, the price is the same at the beginning as it is at the end. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Start earning cash at the pump today. Why not? Use this limited time code, football, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon. You can make up to $300 in a year just from buying gas, and you got to buy gas anywhere that you go anyhow. At first, you may have thought, this can't be true, but it is absolutely legit. People are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can as well. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank, PayPal, eGift, Amazon, and other places. Don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app now using limited time code football for a limited time 25% gallon bonus. That's promo code football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day and your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst, bringing you as much recruiting coverage during the season. When some other people might be looking the other direction, I absolutely want to talk about it. Ohio State is the topic today, and I think, without a doubt, their 2026 recruiting class is underrated. It doesn't mean that it's not rated at least close, but again, I think that it should be higher. It's the most balanced you're going to get for this point in the year when you still have spots left. We're going to talk about a few things they still need to do here in a moment, but they also have top-end talent on offense, top-end talent on defense, guys that are underrated. I've got all kinds of things still to talk about. Luke Fahey, he's a kid that I know a lot of Ohio State fans might be curious about. He can spin it, and he's an Ohio State fan, like he's going to play for the Buckeyes. It's where he wanted to go for a long time. All of these things are very advantageous for the Bucs. So I'm going to talk about Fahey next. Mission Viejo, one of the most tradition-rich programs in the greater Los Angeles area. He won a state title as a sophomore, didn't get a big head, always yes sir, no sir when you interview him, when you're around him. The other players like him. At quarterback, that matters. In some other positions, I may not really talk about it in the same light. Yes, indeed, it matters behind center. With that, he's very accurate. He's mobile. He's not the biggest guy, 6'1", but he can absolutely make guys miss in the RPO game, quarterback draw, or just escapability, whether it's to run for yardage or to extend a play to get the ball to somebody like Chris Henry Jr., Kayden Dixon-Wyatt, or any other number of players for the Bucs. He's able to do that. This is a kid that could play at a lower level. He could play receiver. But yet, going FBS, quarterback, in today's game, Luke Fahey is very good. They hit another home run here. It's hard to continually get really good quarterbacks that want to be at your school. Not just good, but does he really want to be at your school, or did a kid just take an NIL deal? I want you to think about that in general as a little extra in this pod. I don't care if you're root for Ohio State or root for somebody else. How many kids did, and fill in the blank for the school, did they get they really wanted that came because they wanted to be there, not because of the NIL? He's one of those guys that wanted to be Ohio State. I knew that a long, long time ago. When he got the offer, I knew it was probably going to trend towards Columbus, Ohio. That's a young man that'll probably stick around and wait it out to get his shot. You can never have enough veteran quarterbacks on your roster. So I really like it. I also like a couple other things about their class, and it begins with the offensive line. I saw some of the dominant players that they've had across the country play at different events. I've talked about Dixon-Wyatt and Henry, etc. But I also saw Sam Greer in pass pro. He is a man-child. He is a guy that I think could play right tackle for sure, maybe able to play left tackle. Pass protection skills look pretty good to me, but he's awfully big. Maybe he just wants to be a power guy because he thinks that way. He wants to run through guys. But he was really good against some smaller players at the Rivals 5-star. And I think that's something you have to take into account. It's hard to pass block when the guy doesn't have pads on. These simulated 5-on-5s and different things that I go to, they're great. They're great. There's some teaching moments, but it's really hard for offensive linemen. He was one of the best players there and in pass pro. I think that he can play pretty early for Ohio State. I also, just me, I like the Tucker Smith kid they have from Arizona. I think he's underrated. I also think that Aaron Thomas, another kid from Arizona, who's Florida State legacy, his dad played for the Knowles in the late 90s, was a starter when they won a national title. That's another kid that's probably a little bit underrated, could be a tackle as well. And then you also have Maxwell Riley out of Avon Lake in Ohio. Good four-man class. Ohio State fans, if they've complained about anything with recruiting more than O-line, I don't know what it is. Pretty sure that's the spot over the last 5 years that would be the most common concern. They're addressing that in this class. They have several really good football players. Ohio State's done a very nice job. And the other thing that I really like about this group, I didn't go through on either side of the ball. I've kind of mentioned this. There's just no hole. There's just no hole. They didn't get a tight. Oh, yeah, they did. They didn't get a running back. Oh, yeah, they did. They've got a little bit of everything. As good as their staff does at coaching, getting this balanced class is really important. Now, here's the one thing that people are going to talk about. Well, you said, Brian, balanced. They're not done yet at DB. It's balanced so far, to be clear. For anybody who wants to say it's not completely balanced, okay, they've got two DBs, but they're also, the guys they have, Blaine Bradford, at a Baton Rouge Catholic, A, you stole him right from underneath the nose of LSU, and B, he's a national top 5 safety by any measurement. You could argue number 1. Secondarily, I already talked about Jordan Thomas. Love him as a player. I've seen him live. Good young man, good family. He's committed to Ohio State out of one of the best programs on the East Coast in Bergen Catholic. If you just add one more DB, you're in a pretty good spot. And you had a really good DB group last year anyway. So they're doing some pretty darn good things. In the secondary, they just need to add one more player. If they got 2, it would be preferred. But I'm sure Ryan Day has that under a pretty good eye. I'd imagine they know where they've got a shot, who they could flip or add, whatever. Maybe it's a junior college player, maybe it's a transfer, or getting somebody that's still uncommitted that's rising. Ohio State will figure that out. Now, as for the running back, I don't know much about him. I'm not going to butcher his name. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to try. But he's an in-state kid. They're going to have the goods on him. There hasn't been a lot of discussion about it. Could they take a second running back? Sure. Maybe they flip one of the kids they went after that were priority recruits. Certainly possible. But I'm not really worried about Ohio State running back. I like the People's kid. I like all the young players they have. And they got I think Bo Jackson eventually is going to be a dude there. They're going to assemble running backs. It's one of the easier positions to fill your roster with a quick transfer to. Not as concerned there. Should they take a third linebacker? Possibly. I could see that as well. If you want to go that route and talk about it, that's fine. But again, just from top to bottom, really balanced class so far. They've got impact guys on both sides of the ball. There's no hole in the class, like where they just have a goose egg. And again, for those fans that are liking the Bucs and they're just a little frustrated with O-line recruiting over the last 5 years, could it have been a little better? Okay. Nitpicky. Well, this O-line group is legit, especially Greer. Like, that guy's an animal. I would imagine that this class is at least a few spots lower than it should be. And what's the ranking? Rivals and 24/7 have 9th. I think it should be higher. I'm higher on Luke Fahey than about anybody else. Maybe I'm higher on Wilder than most. A lot of people like at 24/7, they haven't seen Wilder like that. He was at Rivals 5-star. 24/7 people aren't even allowed there. I'm telling you, that guy is legit. Ohio State, in my opinion, should be somewhere between 5 and 7 in the recruiting rankings. And if everything hit just right, if you flip one kid on either side of the ball, preferably both, maybe you add a running back, maybe it's another DB, whatever, there's a chance for still having a top 5 class. This is a very good group, and there's nothing not to like about it. If you're an Ohio State fan, you should be very happy. And for those of you that hate Ohio State, it's going to be more of the same. They're going to be a top 10 team pretty much every year, probably top 5 most of the time. In the class of 26 is a major reason why. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. We'll be doing more of these breakdowns and having fun and continuing on with game previews. I put up Oregon, Oklahoma State today and a crossover with Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State. Having fun in college football season. I hope you are too. We'll see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.